The journey of healing would not be easy, but it was the only path that led to peace. The final scene takes place in the ancestral shrine, where Emeka, Chief Okoro, and Amara come together to offer a prayer for healing. The shrine, adorned with artifacts and ancestral masks, seems to hold its breath as they kneel in front of the altar. Emeka looks up at his father, who smiles weakly, his eyes filled with gratitude. This is the first step, Emeka. We've faced the truth, and now we face the future. Amara takes Emeka's hand, her voice steady as she whispers, "Thank you for forgiving me." The family sits together, their bond slowly mending as they offer their prayers, not for deliverance, but for strength to move forward. Emeka knows the road ahead will be long and difficult, but he is no longer alone. After the reconciliation, the family entered a period of uneasy peace. Chief Okoro, Emeka, and Amara worked hard to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. There were no easy fixes, and the wounds of the past remained fresh, but time was their ally. Emeka noticed subtle changes in his father. The once proud man, so sure of himself and his decisions, now moved with a quiet humility. Chief Okoro spent more time with Emeka in the fields, teaching him the old ways of farming that his father had once shared with him when he was a boy. Though their conversations were often strained, there was a silent understanding between them, a shared effort to heal the rift. Amara, too, had withdrawn from her once flirtatious behavior, choosing instead to work in the household, helping with chores, and participating more in village activities. She and Emeka spoke less frequently, their exchanges still tainted by the past, but they were learning to coexist in the same space. Yet, despite the outward appearance of normalcy, there were days when Emeka would catch his father looking at him with an almost pained expression, as if uncertain of how to regain his former place in Emeka's life. Likewise, Amara's presence in the compound was a reminder of the fracture, the silent shadow that hung between them. As the weeks passed, Emeka began to wonder if true healing was even possible. The village, too, had begun to take notice of the changes. While some admired the courage it took to confront such a deep family issue, others whispered that the damage could never be undone. Emeka heard these rumors and they nodded him. Could they rebuild not just as a family, but as a community? As summer settled into the land, bringing with it the warmth of the harvest season, Emeka began to notice a growing tension between his father and Amara. Despite their attempts at normalcy, something had shifted between them, an unspoken barrier that neither seemed willing to cross. Emeka could feel the change in the air, it was subtle, but it was there. One afternoon, as Emeka returned from the market, he found his father and Amara arguing in the courtyard. Their voices were raised, their words harsh. "You can't keep doing this, Amara." Chief Okoro shouted, his face flushed with frustration. "We can't pretend like nothing happened." Amara stood with her arms crossed, her face hard as stone. "I didn't ask for any of this, father," she retorted. "You were the one who crossed the line. You were the one who needed me more than I needed you." Emeka's heart pounded as he watched the exchange. It was the first time in weeks that he had seen his father and Amara openly clash. In that moment, he realized that the reconciliation they had worked so hard for had only been a temporary patch on the wound. There were still too many unresolved feelings, too many silences between them. "Why do you keep punishing me?" Amara's voice cracked as she took a step toward her father. "I'm trying to make things right, but you won't let me." Chief Okoro, his face crumpled with sorrow, turned away. "I don't know how to move forward anymore, Amara. I thought I could rebuild our relationship, but I don't know where to start." Emeka stood at the edge of the courtyard, his presence unnoticed by both of them. The conversation had caught him off guard, and a sense of dread settled in his chest. He knew their journey toward healing had not been easy, but he hadn't expected the wounds to remain so raw. This confrontation forced Emeka to acknowledge the reality of the situation. Rebuilding their relationship would take more than just time, it would take a deep and honest confrontation of their emotions, of the damage that had been done. Could they truly heal from this, or were they doomed to carry the weight of their past mistakes forever? Emeka could no longer ignore the conflict between his father and Amara. It seemed to simmer beneath the surface, only occasionally rising to the surface in heated arguments. Each time he intervened, trying to mediate and ease the tension, he found himself drowning in his own emotions. He was no longer just a son trying to understand his father's actions, he had become the unwilling mediator between two people he once trusted completely. One evening, Emeka sat alone in the family's compound, his thoughts spinning in every direction. He had been offered a position on the village council, an honor that his father had been eager for him to accept. But Emeka was uncertain. His father had always dreamed of him taking on a leadership role, and for a long time, Emeka had shared that vision. But now, with the rift between them still so present, Emeka wasn't sure if he was ready to step into that role. What kind of leader could he be when he was struggling to hold his family together? What good was leadership if it didn't come from a place of trust and unity? That night, after everyone else had gone to bed, Emeka took a walk through the village. As he passed familiar faces, he felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on him. The villagers looked to him for guidance, but how could he guide them when his own life was in chaos? He walked past the shrine where his family had once prayed together, its weathered stones reflecting the moonlight. He had never realized how much the land itself carried the weight of their history. The shrine was old, its foundations cracked, but it had endured centuries of storms, fires, and wars. It had stood firm despite everything. Perhaps, Emeka thought, it wasn't about perfection. The shrine wasn't flawless, but it had endured. It had weathered the storms and stood strong. Maybe that's what healing would look like, a process of enduring, of standing firm despite the cracks and the weight of the past. A few days later, the situation reached a breaking point. The tension that had been building for weeks finally exploded in an argument between Chief Okoro and Amara. Emeka had been away, working in the fields, when he heard the shouting from the compound. He rushed back, heart racing, to find the two of them at odds once more. This time, Emeka couldn't remain silent. He stepped between them, his voice firm and commanding. Enough, he shouted. I won't stand by while you tear each other apart. We're family. We have to figure this out. Chief Okoro, his face red with frustration, turned to Emeka. Do you think I'm not trying? Do you think I don't want to heal? But every time I look at her, all I see is my mistake. Amara, tears streaming down her face, looked at Emeka. I don't know how to make things right either, Emeka. I don't know how to fix what's been broken. Emeka's heart softened as he looked at the two of them. He knew that their journey wasn't going to be simple, but the realization came to him then, there was no easy solution, no quick fix. Reconciliation was going to take time. It was going to take patience, humility, and a willingness to face the pain they had caused each other. He turned to his father, his voice quieter now. We don't have to fix everything today, father. But we need to start somewhere. Together. Chief Okoro looked at his son, his expression softening for the first time in weeks. You're right, Emeka. I don't know how to heal this, but I'm willing to try. For you. For us. With the weight of the past lingering, the family knew that healing wouldn't happen overnight. The road ahead would be filled with challenges, moments of doubt, and difficult conversations. But, Emeka realized that they had taken the first step, together. The village began to notice the change as well. The once tense atmosphere in the compound slowly gave way to a sense of quiet cooperation. Though the past couldn't be erased, the future was theirs to shape. As Emeka stood beside his father and Amara one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he felt a deep sense of peace. The journey ahead would be long and uncertain, but for the first time in months, he felt hopeful. As the days continued to unfold, the weight of tradition began to press heavily on Emeka's shoulders. While his family was slowly mending, the village itself had begun to stir with gossip and speculation. The villagers, who had always held Chief Okoro in high esteem, now whispered about the scandal that had rocked his household. Many had been sympathetic at first, understanding the human complexities that led to such a betrayal, but as time passed, their patience wore thin. Emeka, now facing the reality of stepping into a leadership role, felt the pressure mounting. He had been raised to uphold the values of his people, respect for elders, unity in the community, and the sanctity of family. But how could he lead with conviction when his own family was divided? The tension between tradition and his personal values weighed heavily on him. One afternoon, Emeka found himself at the village square, surrounded by the elders who had once offered him advice. They were waiting for his decision regarding the upcoming tribal festival, a responsibility that Chief Okoro had held for years. This year, Emeka was expected to take up the mantle. But with the family still in turmoil, he felt unequipped to represent the village with honor. Emeka, Elder Ojukwu called, his voice low but firm. The people look to you now. The festival is upon us, and you must lead. You cannot hide from your destiny. Emeka nodded, but doubt clouded his mind. I don't know if I can, Elder. How can I lead when my own family is in disarray? Elder Nena, with her deep eyes that had seen generations pass, replied gently, a leader is not defined by the perfection of his family but by his ability to unite the people in the face of adversity. Your duty is to them now. You must find the strength to rise above the turmoil. Emeka left the meeting with a heavy heart, understanding that the expectations placed on him were not just personal but communal. It wasn't just his father or Amara who needed his forgiveness, it was the village that was looking to him for guidance. The conflict at home was something he couldn't ignore, but it was clear that his responsibilities to the community were becoming increasingly urgent. Emeka spent the following days caught in a whirlwind of preparations for the festival. His father, though deeply remorseful, was still unable to offer much help. Chief Okoro spent his days in isolation, his thoughts clouded by the shame of his actions, unable to face the village openly. Amara, too, seemed to retreat into herself. She offered assistance in the household but seldom spoke with Emeka directly. The silence between them was more pronounced than ever, as if they were both waiting for something that neither could define. It was during these trying days that Emeka found solace in the guidance of his mother's elder sister, Auntie Foma. Auntie Foma had always been a steady presence in the village, known for her wisdom and grace. She had been like a second mother to Emeka, and though she too was aware of the family's troubles, she had never once wavered in her support for him. One evening, Emeka sought her counsel as the weight of his responsibilities threatened to overwhelm him. Auntie Foma, he began, his voice weary. I don't know how to balance everything. The festival, my family, the village, I feel as though I am being pulled in 1,000 directions. Auntie Foma, sitting cross-legged in her modest hut, regarded him with a knowing smile. You are burdened, Emeka. But understand this, it is in times of great difficulty that true leaders are forged. You do not need to have all the answers, but you must remain true to your values. Your heart will guide you, even when your mind falters. Her words brought Emeka a small sense of peace, but the next few days tested him further. As the festival drew nearer, so did the pressure to make the right choices. He could no longer hide behind his grief or confusion, his people needed him, and he needed to find the strength to lead them. The day before the festival, Emeka made a decision. He would not let his family's pain or his own insecurities prevent him from fulfilling his duties. He would step into the role that had been expected of him, despite the personal turmoil that still weighed heavily on his heart. But as he prepared for the day, something unexpected happened. His father, Chief Okoro, approached him for the first time in weeks, his eyes filled with a quiet determination. Emeka, Chief Okoro said softly, I know I have failed you. And I know I have failed our people. But tomorrow, at the festival, I want to stand beside you. I want to show the village that I am ready to move forward, that I can still serve them. Emeka looked at his father, the man who had once seemed so invincible, now humbled by his own mistakes. For the first time in months, Emeka felt a spark of hope. Perhaps, with time, his father could find redemption. Perhaps, together, they could heal not just their family but their place in the village as well. Yes, father, Emeka replied, his voice steady. Let's stand together. Let's show the village what it means to rise above the past. The decision was made. Emeka would lead the festival, but not alone. Chief Okoro would stand with him, and together they would show the village that redemption was possible, that unity could be restored, and that even in the face of betrayal, there was strength in forgiveness. The day of the festival dawned bright and clear, the air filled with the sounds of drums and laughter as the villagers gathered in the central square. The festival was a time of celebration, but it was also a time for the community to come together, to honor their ancestors and renew their bond with the land. Emeka, dressed in the ceremonial attire of his father's lineage, an intricately woven robe of blue and gold, stood at the head of the procession. Beside him stood Chief Okoro, wearing the same attire he had worn many years before, his face a mixture of pride and humility. As they walked through the village, the crowd parted to let them pass, their eyes filled with curiosity. Whispers floated in the air, but they were no longer as harsh as they had been. There was a sense of anticipation, a recognition that something important was unfolding. When they reached the central square, Emeka stepped forward, his heart pounding as he faced the village. He knew the weight of this moment. This wasn't just about the festival, it was about the future of his family, his village, and his own path. I stand before you today, Emeka began, his voice strong, not just as your son, but as your leader. Our village has faced many trials, and I know that the wounds we carry are deep. But it is in times like these that we must come together. We must forgive, we must heal, and we must move forward, not as individuals, but as a community. The crowd was silent as Emeka spoke, the weight of his words sinking in. His gaze shifted to his father, who stood beside him with a quiet strength. Emeka continued, Today, we honor our past, but we also look to the future. Together, we will rebuild what was broken, and we will ensure that no matter what challenges we face, we do so as one. The villagers, who had once murmured in judgment, now responded with a deep, unified cheer. It was a moment of collective healing, one that transcended the pain of the past and gave them all a sense of hope. As the festival came to a close, Emeka walked through the village, his father by his side. The air was thick with the scent of roasted meats and fresh flowers, the sounds of the celebration still echoing in the distance. It had been a long and difficult journey, but Emeka knew that they had taken a significant step toward healing. As they reached the edge of the village, Emeka stopped and turned to his father. This is just the beginning, father. There is much work to be done, but today we have shown that we are capable of moving forward. Chief Okoro nodded, his face full of pride. And we will, Emeka. Together. For the first time in a long while, Emeka felt a sense of peace. The road ahead would still be difficult, but he knew that with his family by his side, he could face whatever came their way.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more stories.